Now we have our next speaker, Regional Director for APAC, iGuzzini, Mr. Luka Tarzadi.
现在邀请iGuzzini照明亚太区总监 Luca Tarsetti 先生。
Okay. Can we start? Perfect. So, thank you everybody for coming here. I have the chance today to introduce you the relationship that as iGuzzini we have with the material, and thank also to IDI. This is the 6th edition, so we always been partner from the beginning. So and this I think is a good platform to talk about design, to talk about innovation and material. Who we are? We are the biggest Italian company in architectural lighting field. We have been born in 1959, so we have more than 60 years history. In reality, and this is something that is very related when we talk about materials, we are a bit old as a company, but we are the daughter company of another big Italian brand, which is Fratelli Guzzini, was born in 1912, so it's a company with more than 100-year history, and was a leading innovator for plastic material. So, of course, when we start to develop our products in lighting, plastic material was one of the most important elements that characterize our design. This is one of the first lamps that we have designed in the 60s. And at that time, we started cooperation with the best designer for objects they were in Italy at that time. So Gio Ponti, Gao Lenti, some of the top pro designers. But, of course, the company evolved. So those were fantastic objects when it comes to decorative products. It's something that you can put in your living room, you can put in a nice environment, in a nice setting, but it was not a performing object. What became a performing object was this product, which was one of the first track light in the market, in the world, and this is a professional product. So the company during the 60s had a switch from decorative products to architectural products, so to professional products. And at that time, the material had to be different, because you can imagine that a plastic material can give you a very good feeling, but is not performing, it cannot resist to certain temperatures that are required when you want to have a quality effect, a performing effect on the lighting product. Plus, we started to affirm ourselves as the leading company during those years, the leading company in Italy and in the world in the architectural lighting field. Therefore, we start to have cooperation with other kind of master in terms of design, and one of the most famous cooperation that we have was with Renzo Piano, which date back in 1987 when we first designed. This is a product for the Lingotto in Torino, which is one of the most famous building in the city, as I'm sure many of you know. And thanks to the cooperation with this designer, we start to explore different kind of material in order to be able not only to achieve a performance, but to achieve a performance that can be able to express the idea of the designer, of this Archistar. And from some cooperation, for example, this is one product that won the Compasso d'Oro Award, which is one of the most important awards. This is a spotlight for museum designed with Bruno Jacquelin, for example. And this one is another product who won the Compasso d'Oro Award. It's called Nuvola, and it was the first outdoor street lighting to use indirect lighting. So usually you had the lighting coming from the bottom with the source here. Renzo Piano asked us to push the boundaries, so we were able to design a lighting that was indirect. So you had enough light on the ground, but you had absolutely no glare. So it was very comfortable, and at that time was really pushing the limit. So we had to push the limit on this material, which was created through the experience of the plastic that we had with both Fratelli Guzzini and another company of our group, which was Teoco, was producing bath tubes and showers. And of course, the technology that we were mastering already at that time with professional lighting products. So it was a very good combination, and it was recognized with the Compassador. But as we all know, now everybody, when you think about lighting, before you can think about many different kinds of sources. Now, for the man on the street, lighting is LED. So in the market, there was this breakthrough, which changed completely the way the game was played. And there are different kinds of LED in the market. This is something that maybe you don't think about usually. You think about LED as the very small chip, but in reality, there are many, many, many different kinds of options. And as a professional company, we have to choose what is the best option that we believe can deliver the performance. And at the same time, we have to be able to make it perform and to play with the material that we have to use. The LED is very challenging. If you think about the traditional lamps, all the heat comes from the front. So today these are all LED light. So I can speak here with a bit heavy jacket. I'm not sweating too much. Maybe if I sweat, it's a bit of emotion. But it's not hot. So the light, in reality of LEDs, is not hot. But, of course, there is a heat generated, which is all in the back of the product. So you need to be able to design a product that actually let the LED live longer, last longer, and dissipate the heat, and at the same time allow it to perform. This is one example of probably one of the most famous products we realized in 2012. It's called Laser Blade. And we have to match this design. This is downlight. So in reality, this is a design that maybe is not necessary aesthetically, because you don't see it when it's installed. It's inside the ceiling. But of course, we want it to be pleasant. When you open the box, you have to see the quality, you have to see a design. But at the same time, this kind of design, for example, allows us to have a 10% more surface so we can release the heat easily, and we allow the product to last. One of our standards with LEDs is to make them perform for a long time. There is this conception today in the market that if you put an LED inside a body, somehow it works, LED lasts longer. True, but not so true. So you need to make sure that the design of the product, the material that you're using, allow actually the LED to perform at the best. For us, we introduced two concepts very quickly. We call it L90, this is a standard in the market, which basically means that after 50,000 hours, which is the standard lifetime of an LED, the flux remain at 90% of the original flux when you bought the product, which means that if you switch on the product for 50,000 hours, after 50,000 hours, you still basically have 90% of the light you had when you bought it, which is a very, very good performance. And we say that this is true for 90% of the product we offer you, which is already a very, very good performance. Now, many people, they start to talk about L90 before, but they don't tell you what is the B. So if the B is, for example, 50, it means that, yes, maybe you can reach 90% of the flow after 50,000 hours, but this is true for about half of the product that you get. Of course, it's not only about the heat dissipation. As we said before, there are many shapes of LED, many different kind of need, many different sizes. So we have also to be able to play with the optics. This is one of the core know-how of our company. We produce also in China. I can tell you that the optics of the products we make in China, we still import from Italy, so we are able to guarantee 100% the same consistency of the production as well as the performances. So you see, the reflector or the lenses can come in many different shapes, many different materials. There are some treatment in some product of ours that is not possible to find in more than 2-3 companies in the world because they are so particular. They use some particular, for example, silver treatment that allow us to perform. These are all the patents, for example, that we released in the market in the last years. As you can see, these are patents that vary from museum application, to street lighting, to residential application. We are able to cover all. And in this particular case, there we talk about lenses, so plastic material, methacrylate. While for the bottom, we need to be able to have same performances, but with different material, in this case, aluminum. And this is what the result you can have. So if you are able to master the material at your disposal, then you can achieve a lot of nice application. This is a residential application where you see there is a lot of light in the environment, but all these products, I assure you, they are switch on. You can see there is an example over there. You see the light, but you don't see the product. So you are able to master this kind of application. As well as this is the same product in an office space in Milan. This is the first and only, I think, underwater restaurant in Europe, which is in Norway. So you can see as well that there is a light, but you don't see the light source in the ceiling. No? As well, we work a lot in museums. We've done a lot of museums also in China. This is an example that we have done in Spain. But there is also an evolution. So this is another, probably the last product, one of the last products we released in the market last year, which was presented in IDI in the edition of Shanghai in 2020. And you see we won a lot of awards, and it's basically the evolution of the product that you see before. And it's good for, of course, office spaces, residential, we're using a lot of retail and so on. Another important thing to consider when we talk about material is that in our case, we have a material we need to consider talking about the product, but we have to light some material. So we need to actually think what kind of material we have to light, what kind of effect we have to achieve. This is a new product designed by Jean-Michel Wilmot, just got some very important award. And is used for example, in this kind of application. So you see that in this case, you have a very important application in the UK, and you have to light this kind of material and create this kind of effect. But we work a lot in heritage. So you have other kind of application that you need to care about. This, of course, is an heritage project. So you see the material of the surface, the finishing is totally different. So you need to use a totally different solution that actually is able to match the requirement of the design that you want to achieve. In Milan, during the expo, was a pavilion for Vanke, so for one of the three Chinese pavilions. We highlighted, I think, all the three. And you see, you can imagine the kind of surface that we are using, no? One important concept that I want to pass to you, which I think is very important, and is true for many kind of application, as you will see, is the color rendering index. So a good quality of LED, a good quality of product is able to let you actually perceive the real color of the material. It's very easy to understand if I show you this image. So in the retail business, it's quite simple. You want to sell good products, good fabric, maybe made by Tema, but you need to have to be attractive and to show to your customer what is the real color of these clothes. A good CRI means you are as close as possible to the sunlight, which is the most natural source of light that you have. So how many times you go, you stay in the room, you see a color, then you go out to say, oh, let me see what is the color. We hope that you don't have to go outside, so you have a good quality of light inside your application. And sometimes you need to look into the details. So many companies, for example, they tell you they have a very high CRI, but the LED is a blue light emitting source. So you need to be very careful that high CRI doesn't mean that you have a good color rendering. You need to look into the details of what is called R9, R8. So the red part, the warm color come out. And this is something that only a very good producer can assure you. Again, it's not only about the color rendering, the finishing, it's also the kind of design that you want to achieve. You can see that for different architecture, you can have different kind of design, of course. So it's in the nature of the building, especially when we go to a door, that different shapes, different material require a different kind of design. And these are some of the applications that we have realized recently in the last years. This is a tower in Mexico City where we use a concept is called graphic lighting. So you have a particular kind of application where you enhance, you play a little bit with the light to create a pleasant effect. Instead, we have a vertical light, what we call a vertical lighting, when this is a theater in Italy, and you see that we have an old building facade. We want to play with the shape, with the shadow of the building that you can create, and you have a totally different product with a totally different optic that allow you to reach this kind of effect. This is a uniform lighting that this is the Royal Academy of Arts in London, which is a huge project we realize. And you can see that when you have to light a piece of art, no, you want to have a uniform, high quality effect, and again, material, the shapes, and the performances require totally different from what you see before. This is a residential, so it's an invisible lighting, so you can see the same concept that I showed you before. And then we can have static lighting. This is in St. Petersburg. We have an historical building, light in the nicest way possible. The light is there and remain to enhance the building, but we have color lighting. This is the Eurasia Tunnel in Istanbul. You know that the city is between Asia and Europe, so this connect the two areas of the city, and we play with the architecture, with the color changing and so on. And this is a building in Shanghai. So if you happen to go nearby Gubei area, Shaohejin, you will see that there is this fantastic building with a lot of dynamic effect that is made with our product. Of course, you can have a color temperature shifting. In order to create a different kind of design, you can use a colder color temperature, a warmer color temperature, so you play a little bit with the environment, or another dynamic effect. This is a project in Croatia. But since we are here to talk about icons, I think that the right approach in any project, in everything we do actually, is an holistic approach. So this probably is one of the most iconic artworks that we have in Italy, which is the Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci in Milan. And this, I think, is probably the best combination of a study between the material of the product, the performances of the product, and what the real application is. This is a fresco of, I don't know how many years ago, 600-700 years ago. We had a very, very deep study of every inch of the fresco in order to make sure that on a certain way we have the best performances, so the real color of the painting come out. And at the same time, we don't disturb the painting. This, you can imagine, is very fragile. You cannot increase the temperature so much. You cannot have many products because otherwise, you know, the painting start to fade, they crack. You cannot have many people at the same time. So we had this huge study, and you can see the differences. No? This is the old CRI, so the old system, and you cannot perceive, it's very flat, you cannot perceive the color. Our solution allow you to, on a side, enjoy the painting better, using 7 products. So not about the money, right? So we spent 4 months, 5 months studying the painting, and we sold 7 products at the end of the day. But for the city of Milan, it was a very big achievement, because more people actually can visit this painting every day, because we were able to create an environment that is more sustainable for the painting itself and allow it to be more enjoyable and for all the visitors that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca. Open up floor for questions for Luca. If there's anyone with a question, please
There is no
raise your
Carlo.
hand.
There's no Carlo.
There's
so
no Carlo.
question.
Sure, there's still questions, to be quite honest. Okay. No? Devin, okay.
Thanks for the presentation, and for sure because myself is kind of currently under the decoration phase in my home, and then I found out the lighting can be very different, but the prices can be also the same thing. If I just choose a simple, say the lighting could be, if I choose on a style, it could spend maybe times of the price that I spend on the normal light. So my question is that on what degree do you think in Chinese market to realize this value, or to realize this from 1 to 10? For example, in Western countries or some developed countries, they may spend much money on this because they realize its value were more enjoyable in terms of this environment. But in China, as you may living here for a long time, I think on what degree 1 to 10 do you think the market is in currently, and how it will be in the future?
I think, again, we as a company, I've been living in China for about 15 years, but I'm very young. But I tell you that before there was not, to be honest, much sensibility in the private end users when it comes to lighting. Okay, so the first question, 多少钱? How much it costs? Now the things are changing. So while for us selling for a private villa, a private apartment was very, very difficult because the owner, even if they had the possibility, they were not willing to invest. Now there is more and more the need and the willing to have a comfortable living environment. Our product, we can talk for days about sustainability, about how the light affect you. So actually we are the 6th edition of IDI, I can tell you. The other edition we talk about sustainability, human-centric lighting and so on. The cost, of course, you want to buy higher quality product, of course, it's going to cost you more. The problem is how much is going to cost you the stress that you have for not having a good environment. This you cannot quantify, but you're going to pay for it. How much energy saving you can have. To have the same effect, you can save much more energy. So it's a longer term saving. How many product less you need to use? So how many less impact you have in the environment? I can tell you, if my product is performing, you don't have to use so many. If I'm an ethical company, I will not put 30 products inside this room. I will put 10. Because for you is enough. You buy a cheaper alternative, okay, you spend less, but you need 20 products to reach the same effect. How much waste you are creating. So it depends. Of course, I would say it's not always easy to make this kind of calculation, let's say, but I believe you have an advantage. You have an advantage in the long run, for sure.
Thank you very much, Luca.
I have a question.
He's arrived.
I mean, today is for free. Tomorrow I have to pay. So I ask.
Okay. That's good. That's okay.
You know, one of the things that I miss the most in China are stars. Not stars like you and other icons present here, but the one in the sky. Because I heard that we are living in a countries that they got really high problem with lighting pollution, which before I didn't know even what it meant. And we, through performance, can we come back to see the star in China?
Depends. You can. Depends if the people want to. So again, in the other edition of IDI, we show concept, we talk about sustainability, human-centric lighting, lighting pollution, if you remember, right? Yes. And these concepts are very popular today. No? Our first campaign was done in 1982. So we start to talk about lighting pollution in 1982, of human-centric lighting in 1982. We had a very nice campaign of the hall with the sunglasses, because there was a study in Italy in the early 90s that all the natural environment was destroyed because of the illumination that they make, not because of anything else. So all the animals, they were flying away and so on and so on. Then we had a very interesting campaign of Who Stole the Milky Way. I can tell you that today, most likely 40% of the energy is in lighting business is wasted where they don't need. So today, there is a sort of design trend to make screen all over the city, which is disturbing the environment, is disturbing yourself. If you ever walk probably on certain areas, on cities, you're not going to sleep well. But this is a choice, is a design choice, mostly, and a quality choice. So if you, on a side, you have to have products that are able to perform and to cut the light, to give you the light where you really need. On the other hand, is a design issue. So if you like to have a building that looks like a TV, you cannot fight the lighting pollution. If you like to have a building that is lighted properly, then you go back to see the stars.
Thank you, Luca.